Shalom Aleichem. Sefer Mishneh Torah Rambam. Hilchot Deot Perek Zayin. Halacha Daled or Waw. Rambam writes as follows: V'chen ha'mesaper b'lashon hara derech sahok v'derech kalut rosh. Kolomar she'eno medaber b'sin'ah. In other words, we are discussing a person who speaks lashon hara, but does so in a manner which is designed to imply that he has no intention at all to say anything untoward about anybody. It's as if it's just something is being said in jest. That is also asur. Hu sheshenomo omer, as the pasuk states in Sefer Mishneh, kemith lahaleach hayora zikim chisrim va'amaweth ken ish rima et ra'ehu va'amar halo v'sahek ani. So the pasuk describes someone who is, as it were, shooting arrows at his fellow Jew, but claims, I'm just joking around. That of course is no defense at all. V'chen ha'mesaper b'lashon hara derech ramayuth. What does that mean? V'hu she'yisaper lethumo. In other words, the person knows very well that he is speaking lashon hara about someone, but he makes out as if he does not realize that this is lashon hara at all, that this will place this person in a negative light. Ela keshem bo. And when people tell him off for speaking lashon hara, he says, Omer, eni yodea, she'elu ma'asa shel ploni, or she'zeh lashon hara. I don't really know if that's what he says, what he does. I'm not sure about what I just related, or I don't know that's lashon hara. Why is that lashon hara? These are all ways of speaking lashon hara in a dishonest fashion, which in some ways is worse than a person who speaks lashon hara and knows full well what he is doing and does not pretend otherwise. So this is not just the issur lashon hara. There's also an element of genevat da'at habriyot, of misleading or dissembling in front of other people, misleading and lying to other people. Very well. Halacha zayin. Echad ha'mesaper b'lashon hara b'fnei havero, or shelo b'fano. In other words, it doesn't make a difference if the lashon hara that is being spoken is said in the presence of the person about whom this is being said or not. Either way, it is asur. In general, what we see from all these statements here is that there are no hanahoth, there are no dispensations to be had with regards to lashon hara. The issur is very real, and one must always avoid lashon hara at all costs. ומספר דברים שגורמים, אם נשמעו איש מפי איש, להזיק חברו בגופו או בממונו. אפילו להחסר לו או להפחידו. הרי זה לשון הרע. In other words, saying things about someone which do not in any way impugn the person. You are not saying anything negative about him, and that's factually true. That you haven't said anything negative, and therefore you would think it is not lashon hara. But they could cause this person, if it is heard by other people, or etc., if the story makes the rounds, it could cause him in some way harm, or nevertheless bring about a situation in which he may be looked down upon, or may be looked askance at. It may cause people to consider him suspect of something. It could also refer to something like some form of financial loss, for example. If one person, let's say Reuven, is thinking of opening a store, let's say he's thinking of opening a shoe store, and there's another Jew, we'll call him Moshe, who has a shoe store in this neighborhood, in this town. If people speak about what Reuven is planning to do, which is perfectly legitimate, he's allowed to open a shoe store. If people speak about it, if people are not, for whatever reason, they like to gossip, and they let it be known that this is Reuven's intention, this may cause Shimon to act in a manner which is asur, to prevent this person from opening the store, even though according to halakha, this other person, Reuven, is allowed to do so. Moshe may act in a way which is asur, and this may cause harm to Reuven. So that is an example of lashon hara, which in no way impugns the person. He has not done anything wrong, but you have done something wrong by informing other people of his intentions, which may, in the fullness of time, bring about may have some negative impact on this person of whom you speak. So that is lashon hara, in the sense that it is evil speech, it is prohibited speech, because it causes damage, or it can cause this person to be, as Rambam says, hilafhido, to cause him to be fearful of something unnecessarily. We're not talking about warning a person of something that may happen to him, in which case that is necessary. It is correct that you warn him. If he's about to do something which places himself in danger, then you are hayav to do so. Lo ta'amul adam re'acha. Do not allow your fellow Jew to be place himself in danger, or to remain in a situation of danger. But if it is not for those reasons, then it is asur.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Would the example you gave, would that not be an example of rechiluth and not lashon hara? Because he's not speaking about, he's not to quote the Rambam, he's not misaper bikunuth haviro. He's just telling stories that will lead to problematic events.
I think technically you are correct. We see from this statement here and many other statements to do with lashon hara, many other halachot and statements of Hazal to do with lashon hara, that the coverall term for all manner of forbidden speech that Chazal used constantly was Lashon Hara, because it is broader. It covers, whereas Rechilut is more specific, as you are saying quite correctly. So Rambam is just following in the footsteps of Chazal, quoting these statements, these halachot, where Chazal uses this terminology. And technically, it makes sense that what you're saying is true, that it should technically be referred to as Rechilut, and it was never intended to even to harm. But if you think for a moment, you will realize that it will, or it may do so. Rambam continues. Now, in general, Rambam is saying, if these kinds of things have already been heard by three people, let's say in your, in shul, in your Beth Knesset, in the synagogue, in your town, in your neighborhood, you know that people have spoken about these things. As people tend to do, and therefore it is general knowledge by now, because what Chazal claim in this regard is that once something has been said in front of three people, you can assume it will be generally known, because people tend to gossip. Then you can assume that it has already become common knowledge. And if one of these three people then goes on to relate it further to others, and it is not considered Lashon Hara. And this is on condition that he does not have the intention of disseminating this information. Although there is some mahaloket about this, but it seems from the Lashon of the Rambam that this statement, that which has been heard and said before three people, is no longer Lashon Hara, is not referred to statements of classic Lashon Hara. That is to say, speaking ill of someone, relating negative things about somebody, but rather specifically refers to what is mentioned in this halakha in Rambam, namely things which of themselves are not Lashon Hara, because they do not speak ill of a person, but they may cause damage or harm in some way, or they may cause him to be fearful or concerned unnecessarily. So it is not correct, according to this understanding of Rambam at least, to say that it is mutar to speak Lashon Hara as long as other people already know this Lashon Hara. Then there are no holds barred. That's not correct according to what we see here in the Rambam. This only refers to this specific kind of speech which objectively is neutral, but subjectively, with regards to this person, may cause nezek, may cause harm, or some tribulation to this person. If it is known widely, then the assumption is that it will no longer cause harm, even if other people know about it, because it's already generally known. Okay, Rambam continues. Halakha Het or halacha. Well, kol elu hem ba'alei lashon hara she'asur ladur bishchenotam. Those who habitually speak in these ways, who it is their habit, it is their want to speak lashon hara, all the different forms that we have discussed. She'asur ladur bishchenotam. Excuse me. Kol elu ba'alei lashon hara she'asur ladur bishchenotam. It is asur to live next door to such people, in their nearby, so that you will not hear such talk. And it is even more obvious that it is asur to speak with such people, to associate with such people, because if you know that this is the person's want, this is the one of the yitzarim, one of the vices that this person has, that he's always speaking one form or another of lashon hara, then you know this is what is about to happen. This is what he's about to say, before it even happened. You can be quite certain. It's a very powerful habit, and there is a powerful yetzer hara. There is a powerful inclination to engage in such talk, and a person has to train oneself not to do so, and also not to hear, not to be in proximity to or in association with such people. ולא נחתם גזר דין על אבותינו במדבר אלא על לשון הרע בלבד. As I'll say that the gezerah, the decree of Hashem, to cause the generation that left Mitzrayim, that left Egypt, to die in the desert, was because of lashon hara. In other words, having spoken against Eretz Yisrael, or having received and accepted the report of the Meragalim. I want to quote something to you. Rambam mentions this, but he doesn't add anything beyond what we've just seen. He mentions this in his Pirush on the Mishneh at the end of the third perek of the Sechet Alachim, the Mishneh. All right. And with that, we have completed the halachot that relates to Rechirut, Lashon Hara, etc. Rambam now continues. This is now halacha Taif Ozayin. Hanoqem et havero. Over below ta'aseh, shenema lo tikom. In other words, we're talking here about the desire to take revenge, to be avenged against someone who has done something improper towards you. So lo tikom is from the shoresh nekama nun Kof mem, and it means not to repay in kind by some negative act or saying something negative in order to get back at someone. This is mufurash in the Torah. The pasuk says lo tiqom wa'af al pi she'eno loka, even though this is a low negative commandment for which there is no specific corporal punishment. There's no malkuyot. Ra'ahi adma'o, that is a very, very negative and reprehensible midah, a form of behavior. Ela ra'ul la'adam liyoth ma'avir al kol divrei ha'olam. It is correct and proper for a person to forgive and to set aside liyoth ma'avir al kol divrei ha'olam. In other words, all manner of things that go on in this world. People are constantly saying and doing things which can in fact legitimately be seen as improper. This, he should not have said this about me. Why did she do that? Why does she take offense when no offense was intended, etc., etc. All manner of things. It often is the result of some kind of a slight or something of that sort. If human beings are makpid, if people are not willing to let such things slide, then there will almost certainly be a constant tension and animosity between people. And we all see this. We all know this to be true. And of course, this eats away at the fabric of society. And if we're talking about Jewish society, about the Jewish people, then it weakens and eats away at the Jewish people from within, which is to be avoided almost at all costs. So Rambam says, you will note that Rambam says, Kol divrei ha'olam. In other words, because divrei ha'olam, what goes on in this world, not that this world is not of importance, is not sufficiently meaningful for us to care about what goes on in this world, but within this world, within the reality of human existence, there are different realities, there are different levels of importance. So if a person didn't, as we're about to see the example, let's read the example first and then we'll continue. Rambam is talking about divrei ha'olam. In other words, things that are not very important, really, when you have a correct appreciation of life, of human existence, what is ikar and what is tofel, what is the important, the main things on which one should concentrate, and those things which are less important, then it is easy for a person to mekayim this or not to transgress this particular this misvat lo ta'aseh of nekama. Rambam says, "Shakol esel hamevinim divrei havel v'havai." Those of true understanding, those who are, which means essentially those who are truly connected to and have been truly affected and shaped by the Torah. That's what Rambam means when he says these words. Ela hamevinim divrei havel v'havai. I'm sorry, Shakol esel hamevinim divrei havel v'havai. Almost all things, when it comes to the kinds of matters and concerns that are on the lips of most people most of the time, they're really not important. And a wise person, a person again who has been molded by the Torah, and this can only happen by study of Torah. One can be a professor of philosophy, but not and have much knowledge, but have very little wisdom. We're talking here about wisdom, not knowledge. One can be a brilliant programmer, but have no understanding or wisdom when it comes to these kinds of things, or in general, what is truly important, what is less important, and what is not important at all. And therefore, if one understands these things, one considers most things to be of little importance or no importance. وَإِنَّمْ كَذَيْ لِنْقُمْ عَلَيْهِمْ, says Rambam, and it is not worthwhile. It's a waste of time for a serious person to even to worry about it. Let's say let's, for example, imagine a situation where there's some kind of conference, and if we're talking about a secular conference or about some topic, and there's a well-known, world-renowned professor, an expert on the subject, present, and they don't recognize him, they don't mention him, they don't honor him in any way, he may well feel slighted. And maybe that's true. Maybe that's exactly what happened. Perhaps it was even deliberate. But the question is, why should it bother him so much? Is that really important that these people say or think this or don't think this about him? If this really matters to this person, this indicates that what motivates him and what he considers to be of great value to himself in this world is honor, is other people honoring him. It's not the chokhmah itself. It's not the ability or the wisdom. It's the it is the benefit that he derives from other people's statements or behavior towards him. And essentially, a person should not be interested in kavod. It's not. It's truly. It's empty. It is well known that certain chachamim, going back many centuries, going back 1,000 years even, spoke about the concept of bitul asmi, of self-negation, in the sense of or hashwa'a is another term that is used. In other words, being indifferent. In other words, one chacham was reported to have asked another, when people praised you for things that are true, they recognize that you're a great man, and they say certain things about you, does that affect you? Do you feel good about this? Does it cause you pleasure or enjoyment? And the person says, well, a little bit perhaps, whatever. And so the Chacham said to him, well, in that case, you have not achieved the level of hashwa'a or hashwaya. In other words, you are still affected by praise, by what people say or don't say about you. The highest level is not to care. The famous example that Hazal give by way of explanation with regards to this isur of lothi kol is as follows. Rambam says, halacha yod here, or halacha zayin still, and others, in other editions, kesad hi hanikima. What is nikima exactly? For example, amar lo havero hashileni kaldum mecha. Lend me your axe. Amar lo eni mashi lecha. No, I don't want to. I do not want to lend it to you. He had no particular reason. It's not that he needed it right now. He just didn't want to lend it to you. And the next day or later, some other time, it came to pass that this person who refused to lend you his axe needs your axe, or he needs to borrow something from you, something else. I am not going to give you this item that you request because you didn't help me out when I needed something from you. That is naqima. He didn't act properly, that's true, but the famous statement, 2 wrongs do not make a right, is correct and is to be applied here. So what should a person do? Rambam says, when this person who refused you on another occasion, yiten belev shalem, he should give and lend to this person what he's asking for. And he should not treat him as he was himself treated by this person. וכן כל כיוצא באלו. וכן אמר דוד בדעותיו הטובות, and so it is to be found in Sefer Tehillim, אם גמלתי שולמי רע, which means that if I ever treated or mistreated a person who was at peace with me, someone who is my friend, a fellow Jew, if I ever treated such a person improperly or in a nasty fashion, that is something that I've never done, states the Pasuk.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.